She was just standing in the courtroom, her notes in hand, when Judge Langley interrupted her mid-sentence with a sharp tone, casting doubt on her abilities before the entire room. The tension in the air was palpable, and for a moment, it felt like every eye was on her, questioning whether she truly belonged there. But Aaliyah Brooks, a young lawyer who had fought through more obstacles than most could imagine, refused to be shaken. Before we dive into the story, I want to know something about you. Where are you watching from? Which city is your voice coming from today? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like if you enjoy stories of courage, justice, and triumph. Now, let's begin. Aaliyah's journey had never been easy. From a small neighborhood, balancing school and part-time jobs, she had clawed her way through law school with determination that was often tested by circumstance. Every courtroom she entered, every argument she made, felt like a statement not just about her skill, but about her right to exist in spaces that were often closed off to people like her. This case was no exception. Her client, Mrs. Rosalind Carter, had been wronged by a powerful corporation that cared little about ethics or fairness. The stakes were high, the pressure immense, and the opposition relentless. Daniel Harris, a colleague who saw her more as a rival than a teammate, had been subtly undermining her from the beginning, planting doubts in the minds of the court and even her own client. The courtroom itself felt like a battlefield. Judge Langley, a stern figure with little patience for youthful audacity, had made it clear from the start that she expected deference, not defiance. Each time Aaliyah tried to present evidence, Langley's interruptions reminded her of the delicate line she had to walk, assertive enough to be heard, careful enough to avoid further prejudice. Aaliyah knew she had to navigate these challenges with precision. Every word she spoke, every argument she framed, had to be meticulously crafted, balancing legal reasoning with unshakable confidence. She recalled the countless nights spent poring over case files, memorizing precedents, anticipating every counter-argument that might come her way. It wasn't just about winning a case. It was about proving that her voice mattered, that competence and morality were not defined by skin color or gender. The corporate attorneys, dressed in crisp suits and carrying the weight of influence, tried every tactic to discredit her. They questioned her experience, her strategy, and even subtly suggested that she was overstepping by representing a client of high profile in such a critical case. Aaliyah's response was calm but firm, each sentence designed to cut through the assumptions and prejudices like a scalpel, revealing facts that could not be ignored. Meanwhile, Daniel Harris whispered comments, sly insinuations meant to make her second-guess herself. But she had learned to tune out those distractions long ago. She drew strength from her own preparation and the knowledge that Mrs. Carter's life, her livelihood, and her dignity were in Aaliyah's hands. Outside the courtroom, her colleagues were split. Some admired her resilience silently, while others assumed she was overreaching, unaware of the quiet strength that had carried her through years of challenges. Aaliyah understood that this was more than a professional test. It was a personal one, a challenge to every barrier she had ever faced. When she stepped up to present the first set of evidence, the room seemed to hold its breath. The documents she laid out, carefully annotated and precisely ordered, painted a picture that even the most skeptical could not ignore. Yet Judge Langley interjected, dismissing parts of the evidence, claiming it was irrelevant or improperly presented. Aaliyah felt the familiar sting of injustice, the weight of prejudice pressing down, but she remained poised. She addressed the judge respectfully, countering each objection with clarity and calm authority, weaving legal reasoning with undeniable logic that left the courtroom quietly stunned. As the day wore on, tensions mounted. Every argument from the opposition, every interruption from the judge, seemed designed to wear her down, to test her limits. And yet, Aaliyah's determination only grew stronger. She could feel the history of countless others who had been silenced or overlooked pushing her forward. This was her chance to change the outcome, not just for her client, but for herself and everyone who had ever been underestimated. In a moment of quiet reflection between sessions, she thought about the sacrifices she had made, the long hours, the sleepless nights, the judgment she had endured from strangers who assumed her path would be easier than it ever could be. She reminded herself why she had chosen this fight, why justice mattered more than comfort or approval. Then came the first real turning point. Aaliyah discovered a key discrepancy in the corporation's internal documents, something that had been overlooked by previous lawyers and dismissed as insignificant. It was a small detail on the surface, but it could dismantle the entire defense if presented correctly. She knew the moment she revealed it, the courtroom dynamics would shift. She prepared meticulously, rehearsing how she would introduce the evidence, anticipating challenges and fortifying her argument with precedent that could withstand even the harshest scrutiny. When the time came, she stepped forward with unwavering composure. Her voice was steady, commanding attention, but never aggressive. She presented the discrepancy, explaining its implications in a way that was both precise and compelling. The room went silent, the gravity of the revelation sinking in. Even Daniel, her detractor, could not hide a flicker of surprise. The judge, momentarily taken aback, adjusted her papers, her expression revealing an unspoken tension. This was not the end of the battle, but it was the first crack in the wall of opposition that had seemed impenetrable. Aaliyah had proven that preparation, intellect, and courage could challenge even the most entrenched prejudice. She felt a surge of quiet satisfaction, knowing she had changed the game, at least for the moment, and that the rest of the courtroom could no longer ignore her. And yet, she knew the hardest part was still ahead. The opposition would not yield easily, and the judge's bias remained an invisible threat looming over every move. But Aaliyah's resolve was stronger than ever, fueled by the knowledge that she was not just fighting for a client, but for the principle that justice should not be swayed by race, gender, or societal assumptions. Every moment in the courtroom felt like a test of endurance, of character, and she embraced it fully. By the end of the day, she had planted the seeds of change, and those seeds would grow into the turning point that could redefine everything. The anticipation for the next day, when she would face the culmination of her strategy, was almost unbearable, but she felt ready. She had faced doubt, discrimination, and systemic bias, and she had emerged not only unbroken, but stronger, wiser, and more determined to see justice done. Part 1 ends here, leaving the audience eager to see whether Aaliyah's perseverance will be enough to overcome the full weight of prejudice and power in the courtroom. She woke up the next morning with a sense of purpose that could not be shaken. Today, everything would change, and she knew it. Aaliyah Brooks entered the courtroom, her mind sharp, her focus unwavering. The previous day had been a test, a prelude to what was about to unfold. Judge Langley's stern gaze scanned the room as Aaliyah approached the podium. The tension was thick, the air almost tangible. Her client, Mrs. Rosalind Carter, sat silently, placing her trust fully in the young lawyer who had already shown remarkable courage. The opposing counsel, the corporation's high-powered attorneys, smirked knowingly, confident that the biases of the court were still on their side. Daniel Harris, her persistent rival, leaned back in his chair with that infuriatingly smug expression, expecting her to falter. But Aaliyah had prepared for every possibility, every tactic, every subtle attempt to undermine her credibility. She began by calmly presenting her key evidence, the discrepancies in the corporation's internal records, meticulously highlighted and supported by prior case law. Her voice was steady, commanding attention without a hint of arrogance. The courtroom listened. The corporate attorneys shifted uncomfortably as she methodically dismantled their defense, exposing deliberate omissions and manipulations. Each argument was precise, every fact undeniable, and the ripple of tension grew with every word she spoke. Judge Langley interjected a few times, challenging her approach, questioning the relevance of her evidence. Aaliyah remained poised, responding with clarity and confidence, turning each objection into an opportunity to strengthen her case. Her logic was airtight, her reasoning undeniable, and even those who had doubted her began to sense the tide shifting. The moment of truth came when she addressed the court directly, her voice carrying with quiet authority. "Your Honor, this is not just about paperwork or policy. This is about the lives affected by the corporation's decisions, the families impacted, the principles of fairness and justice that are supposed to guide this court." A hush fell over the room. The weight of her words lingered. Judge Langley paused, clearly unsettled by the force of Aaliyah's argument. Daniel Harris, unable to respond effectively, looked increasingly frustrated. Even the senior attorneys from her own firm were watching in awe, realizing that this young liar had taken the court by storm. She then called upon witnesses, carefully selecting individuals who could attest to the corporation's unethical practices. Each testimony built upon the last, a chain of truth that could not be ignored or dismissed. Aaliyah's strategy was flawless, her preparation meticulous, and her delivery infused with genuine passion and conviction. Hours passed, the tension in the courtroom reaching a peak that seemed unbearable. But Aaliyah did not waver. She could see the doubt forming in the judge's eyes, the unease among the opposing counsel, and she pressed on with the determination of someone who knew the stakes were higher than any personal challenge she had ever faced. Finally, she rested her case. She stood before the court, her voice calm yet firm, knowing that she had left nothing unturned, that every argument had been made, every fact presented with precision. The silence that followed was heavy with anticipation. Judge Langley leaned back, reviewing the evidence and notes, the weight of the decision pressing upon her. Minutes felt like hours. Then, in a moment that would change everything, the judge spoke. She acknowledged the strength and validity of Aaliyah's case, recognizing the corporation's wrongdoing and the undeniable impact on Mrs. Carter. The courtroom erupted in a mix of surprise, relief, and quiet admiration. Aaliyah's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the realization that justice had been served. Daniel Harris's expression fell, his smugness replaced by reluctant respect. Even Judge Langley, maintaining her authority, could not mask the acknowledgement of Aaliyah's skill and determination. Her client, Mrs. Carter, tears of relief streaming down her face, reached out to thank her. Aaliyah, though overwhelmed by emotion, remained composed, allowing the moment to unfold with dignity. Later, as the court adjourned, her colleagues surrounded her, offering congratulations and newfound respect. Ethan, her mentor and supervisor, approached with a mixture of pride and admiration, acknowledging that she had not only defended her client but had also challenged the very biases that had sought to undermine her. This victory was more than a legal triumph. It was a testament to resilience, intelligence, and courage in the face of systemic prejudice. Aaliyah's story quickly spread beyond the courtroom. Her determination and skill became an inspiration for others facing similar obstacles. She had demonstrated that knowledge, preparation, and unwavering commitment to justice could overcome even the most entrenched discrimination. In the days that followed, offers and opportunities began to pour in. Firms that had previously doubted her now sought her expertise, and her influence in legal circles grew. But for Aaliyah, the most significant reward was the affirmation of her principles, and the knowledge that she had made a tangible difference in someone's life. She had stood firm, faced prejudice head-on, and emerged victorious. And in that victory, she proved something far greater than legal prowess, that courage, integrity, and persistence could challenge the very structures designed to hold people back. This was more than a courtroom victory. It was a victory of character, a triumph of justice, and a reminder that one person's determination could alter the course of events in profound ways. Aaliyah Brooks had fought not just for her client, but for fairness, for recognition, and for the truth that talent and dedication could never be diminished by bias or assumption. And as she left the courtroom that day, She knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more battles ahead, more challenges to confront, but she had discovered the strength within herself to face them all. Her journey was far from over, but she had proven a critical truth: that no system, no court, no set of prejudices could diminish the resolve of someone who refused to be silenced. Justice had been served. Dignity had been preserved. And Aaliyah's name would be remembered, not only for her victory in this case, but for the courage it represented. She had become a symbol, a living example that perseverance, intelligence, and moral courage could change the course of events, inspire others, and redefine what it meant to fight for what is right. And now, as you reflect on Aaliyah's story, remember this: one person's determination can challenge the strongest barriers, confront injustice, and create a path for others to follow. If her journey inspired you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. Stories like these remind us all that courage and perseverance are contagious, and that standing up for what is right can have a ripple effect far beyond what we can imagine.